I'm Danny Lichtenfeld, Director of the Brattleboro Museum. Welcome. Thanks for coming out in this drenching rain. Can you hear me okay in the back? Great. Delighted, just so pleased to have Ffarrabas and Mark Waskow here this evening to talk about Nye's exhibit, which Mark curated. For those of you who don't know, Mark is the founder and president of the Northern New England Museum of Contemporary Art in Burlington. And Nye is a legend in our midst here in Brattleboro. It was a source of much chagrin for us here at the Brattleboro Museum for many years that we hadn't managed to shine a spotlight on Nye's incredible creative output. So just so happy when pieces came together to finally do that. And thankful to Nye for making that possible and to Mark for really facilitating that here. It's a real privilege to have that room filled with Nye's work. And I was just saying to Mark that normally the exhibits we have in the exhibits we often have in that small gallery don't always lend themselves to spending as many hours in the space as you can spend and still not get through everything that's in there. And that's really fun, taking a space that size and filling it with so much and making it such a rich experience. There's a lot that I love about Nye's work and that I know you all do as well. And I would just say that near the top of the list of things that I love about Nye's work are a sense of humor that pervades so much of the work. And I just really appreciate artwork that makes you stop and think about the question of what is art and what is not art, if anything. And Nye's work really does that for me, and I love that, and I've been hearing that, getting that kind of feedback from visitors as well. So anyway, really looking forward to this conversation tonight. Thank you both. I'm going to let you take it away. I assume you guys are going to chat for a little while, and then we have time for questions.
Absolutely, sure.
Okay, great.
I just want to say that Mark has done a spectacular job mounting that show.
And I just want to say, if Nye hadn't done what she did, it would have been so much easier. I would have nothing to do. I'm just very pleased that you all came today, and I thank you for being here. Nye and I are going to talk a little bit about her ideas and her thoughts, and I'm just here as a facilitator to help her to engender a conversation about certain things that might help to elucidate some things. And my first question to you, Nye, is what was it like to realize that you were becoming an artist as an adult?
First of all, I was married to an artist, and he taught at Douglas College, which is part of Rutgers, and there were several other people there, like Roy Lichtenstein, and I'm blocking names.
Caprow?
Pardon?
Alan Caprow?
Yeah, Caprow. Just a whole bunch of people. It was quite a ferment, and we would take long trips in the car together, and one of us would be driving and the other would have an idea, or the person driving would have an idea and the other person would write it down, and vice versa. So we developed this kind of a journal, and I showed it to my brother-in-law, John Hendricks, one night when he was over to dinner. I'm very fond of John, and I would show him anything. And he said, "Oh, a lot of the pieces in the journal were ideas for pieces." And he said, "How would you like to have a show at Judson Church?" He was curator of the gallery there. And I said, well, sure, great. And he said, wonderful. He said, you've got 3 weeks. So I had to pull all these ideas out of the pages and make pieces. And it turned into a show which kind of got me going.
That was word work?
Yeah, Word Work was the name of the show. And the name of what we were writing in was we named it the Friday Book of White Noise. Friday because I had Fridays off and I would sit in a chair and scribble. And white noise because it didn't seem to have to make any sense. And lots of stuff came out of it. Jeff had 3 shows that came out of it, and I had 1, and then other things followed.
And I should point out for those of you who are not familiar, the Judson Church Gallery and the community that developed around it was sort of the epicenter,
In New York City.
yeah, for Fluxus activity at that point in time, which was the point in time. So Nye's introduction into that world was right in the center. She was right in the center of what was happening. And so that lineage, that origin, it's sort of interesting to think how, a few decades later, here we are in Little Brattleboro, right? As sort of a,
Don't diminish Brattleboro.
no, I wouldn't think of it.
Thank you.
I wouldn't think of it. I love Brattleboro. So tell us, Nye, how about all this weird stuff in that room? What's with all that weird stuff? What's it about?
About?
Or whatever you want to say, it is or is not.
Well, there's been a great deal of discussion about what is art and what is not art and so forth. And art became so commodified and, things on the wall in famous galleries around that had high prices on them, which is ridiculous. For me, art is much more of a process, and I don't even like the word art. It's just, it's a way of referring to something. A process, yeah, very much a process. What?
I think that's fine.
I don't-
Is there anything else that you want to say about your work in general?
It doesn't stop.
Right?
That isn't to say that I'm always producing something, but there's always something going on. And I don't think it's weird at all.
I would not expect that you would. That's good. So what did it mean to you, when you're doing the work, as you're doing the work, having done the work that you've done, what does that mean to you? How has it impacted you, and how have the people around you been changed, affected, or?
Come on. Being able to show and in some cases perform or do a reading or something like that, has kind of it's as though one was seeing something made out of light up here, and it came down where people could experience it. Sharing.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing that I've often thought about, when a lot of people, maybe most people, think about art, they think about that thing on the wall, that thing that's on the stand, the thing that's on the floor. And
Horror.
I know, I've often thought of that as sort of like the fossil record of the art, and that the art is actually the process.
Very good.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And I know, thank you, but I know that you not only believe that and feel that, but that whole group of ideas was of utmost importance during the Fluxus, because Fluxus really thought of the art as the process, and all the other things are sort of props to get you there. And so
Very good.
I wonder if you could speak to that in any way, like, is that, because I think a lot of people, when someone's doing a painting, someone doesn't say, oh, that doing is great art. They look at the thing at the end and go, I like that thing, that's the art. And that sort of speaks to the title that I created about Truth is a Verb, because I want to switch up people's ideas.
Talk about weird.
Right. I want to switch up people's ideas about verbs and nouns and actions and things, because there's things that a lot of people think of as static aren't, and the things that people think of as actions are and also aren't. And I think that it's useful to really have those thoughts, because otherwise you can get stuck in a particular way of looking at things that's limited. Would you have any reaction to that? That's good. Anything more cogent, perhaps?
Well, I'm thinking about the time that I was trying to write a novel, and it was awful, and I couldn't finish it, and I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't want to throw it away exactly, because, I mean, I put a lot of time into it, and some of it was kind of nice, but it just wasn't ever going to be a novel. And one day, I had the idea that I would burn it. And I thought, well, I don't want to just burn it. So, again, Judson is a wonderful place. And I took the manuscript and put it in 4 parts and set it up like a string quartet. And I had 3 other readers besides myself, and a lighted hibachi in the middle. And so we read the novel out loud in pieces, and if you read something that I really related to, I would take it and I would read it, and if you, or if somebody got through with a page and that was that, they would crumple it up and throw it in the hibachi. So the performance went on until there were no more paper. There were 3 copies, so I had to do this 3 times. Once at Judson, and once at Billy Apple Gallery on 23rd Street, and once at the Arts Lab in London, which was just, it was wonderful to be able to do that. And I guess at Billy Apple, we weren't allowed to have the hibachi there because of fire laws.
So what did you do instead?
Just crumpled it and threw it on the floor, and then it got put into plastic bags and out of the street. So that's one way to finish a novel.
Yeah, the art is in the thought, the conception, and the doing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're doing very much so.
yeah.
There were wonderful performances of all sorts.
That was the time, yeah.
There was a concert at the, I can't even tell you the name of the place in New York now. A Flux concert, and one of the pieces that I just loved was one of the artists came out with a French horn, and he stood and I forget how he oriented himself, but he took his hand out of the bell of the horn, and marbles went all over.
Yeah.
That was a concert, a concert piece.
That's right. There were a lot of juxtapositions of things that weren't normally thought of as going together. And that the energy that was released from that was part of the deal. John Cage's famous silent concerts, and,
4 minutes and 32 seconds of silence.
Right.
I was thinking we could begin with that.
Well, we did up to a point. We were here for a while, yeah. And also, you had mentioned to me that when you first started doing your work, you initially were thinking that it was just a private thing, and then it became a public thing through the exhibitions, and that had an impact on you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it was great fun to do.
Yeah.
And there was quite a core of people who were doing stuff. And Yoko Ono, for instance, was a dear friend long before she met John. And she was doing things at dawn on the roof of her apartment building. I didn't see that one, but I wish I had. There just was stuff going on a lot, and it was yeasty. It was a ferment.
Yeah. 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 And stuff is still going on, but those days were something unique. I guess all days are unique, but there was something cohesive that, I don't know, it couldn't have been intentional, but it became something that had bonds, and all of the work that came out of that period, particularly in New York, but everywhere too, in Germany and in Japan. And
Wiesbaden.
yeah, right.
Wonderful destruction of a piano. It was probably 8 people just tearing it apart. That was that piece.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't see that one either.
Yeah.
I did go to a concert. It was, I forget whether it was billed as a John Cage concert. Anyway, I was sitting in the audience, and there was quite a crowd. And there were several people, and they were doing something to the piano. I mean, somebody was knocking on it, somebody else was striking keys, plucking strings. And it went on and on and on. And I needed to go to the bathroom. And I got up and I left. And that was the end of the concert. When somebody got up and left, it was the
You didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
No, you have to be careful. So one of the hallmarks of some of the ideas behind Fluxus was that life is art, and that imaginary dividing line that we hear about. I'm not familiar with it either, but a lot of people talk about it as if there's something else besides art. I don't know if anyone here believes that. I personally do not. Everything is art.
I think there's intentionality in there too.
Yes, right. And it isn't always true in life, is it? So if there is a dividing line, is there? And if so, where is it?
I haven't found it yet.
Good. So
Still looking.
how do you view that? Do you feel like life and art are in a continuum together? How do you feel about that?
That's not my thing. To conceptualize and write a master's thesis about it,
I'm just asking your thoughts. If you don't have
I don't have any.
You don't have any, okay. So, but as you're walking around during the day, you are aware of it because, we've talked about like measuring up and the Oasis Mirage and the elderberry, fractals. So you do see art in places that a lot of people would not.
Well, I see something.
Okay,
Other people call it art, I guess.
okay.
Or they say it isn't. That happens a lot.
Yeah. So do you feel that one view or the other is a dominant feeling within you? Or do you just not see it as art and it's just what you're doing and whatever it is, it is? How do you feel about that? I'm trying to elicit how do you feel about it.
Yeah, it's mostly the latter.
So, but,
I think for a while there, years ago, I was collecting word pairs. I had no idea why I was collecting word pairs or what they were for, what they meant. Just pairs of words would come to me, like barrier intensity and, I can't even remember now. I was writing them down, and I got several hundred of them, and I said, oh, do you remember the foreign vocabulary word cards that have an English word on one side and a French word or whatever word on the other side? So I did put one of the pair on one side and the other side of the pair on the other side, and made a little box, which I call a language box. I'm now working on language box 2.
stay tuned.
But it took me quite a while, and I'm an inveterate rewriter. I edit all the time. If I read a novel, I'm checking out the commas. And where was I going with that? I wouldn't be satisfied with a pair, and I would need to put a different word in. Well, one of the word pairs in Language Box went through 17 changes
Wow.
before it was done. And I don't know what that's about. It's just kind of, it delights me, and some other people like it.
Yeah,
That's my first book.
that's right.
300 and how many pages?
319 pairs.
And
Parts,
5 blank
5
for
blanks.
the reader to do their own word pairs.
Have you ever gotten feedback on people that have done that have augmented the set?
Not augmented.
And, use those cards to
Yeah, I
migrate.
used them. They've been used in language courses. They've been used in English courses. Probably in psychology courses.
I bet.
That's just one, one direction. But they pretty well sold out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So different people were doing different things with them.
And sometimes you just see things. What you just described is a process that somehow came to you and then you created it. But sometimes you see raw material right in front of you, literally, and then you'll make something out of that, but it's almost like an assisted ready-made, like measuring up. And
Yeah, I was going to.
Yeah, do you want to talk about that? Yeah.
Failure to measure up. is
Thank
the
you.
name.
Thank you.
And it's a piece of a steel, what do you call that?
Tape measure.
Tape measure, yeah. It's 4 inches and some, that I found on the sidewalk, and I picked it up and I said, well, this is something, but I don't know what yet. And I mounted it on a block of oak, a little block with a plaque that said the title, Failure to Measure Up, and showed it in the CX Silver Gallery. And you were astounded at how many men came in and saw that and thought it was about their private parts. To me, it was autobiographical, being told as a kid that I wasn't measuring up. So it was totally different.
Well, I guess that's one of the great things about art is that they can speak to different people in different ways.
Very much so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, some people have different demons than others, you know?
Well put.
Yeah. What about I want to hear about the elderberry fractals. For some reason, that really, I get a kick out of that.
Well, there's an elderberry bush out in front of where I'm staying, which is assisted living. And last year, I saw all those elderberries going to the birds.
Literally.
And I thought, gee, you know, we could use some. So a friend and I picked 2 big buckets full of them. And then we had to strip them off of the twigs that they were on. And the twigs, I looked at them and they were fractals. They were, there would be a stem and 5 sub-stems going off and 5 going off of each of them. And it was just wonderful. I'm particularly fond of fractals because I met the man who named them. And he was a friend of my sister and brother-in-law. My sister said that Benoit Mandelbrot, his name was coming over to dinner, and his wife, and could I please make a dessert? I could be invited to the dinner if I made the dessert. So I made a cheesecake. I had never made a cheesecake before, but there it was very nice and awfully plain. And I thought, well, I've got to do something. So I had some ginger root in the fridge, and I cut it into little circles. Some were bigger than others, and I made fractals and put of ginger root on top of the cheesecake. And when Benoit saw it, he burst into laughter and had a very good time with it. So I was very pleased. So is that art or is it life?
Sure thing.
There.
Sure thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, one of the things that's coming through as I'm listening to you is this wonder in your observations that in some people seems to subside once they get out of kindergarten. For some people, it leaves them somewhere in junior high school.
Well, I think first grade is a terrible place.
It is.
Once the kids can read, they don't have the same spontaneity of thought anymore.
Interesting. But that childlike wonder and amazement and level of not just observation, but ooh, you know, in everything.
Yeah.
You've managed to maintain that throughout your entire life, which is a very endearing characteristic, but it also, I think, is integral to what you're doing and what we're seeing in your work, too.
Yeah, yeah. I was packing to move one day, and I came across an enema bag. I said, I'm not using this, and I was going to chuck it, and then I said, oh, maybe it's a piece. And the reason I thought it was a piece was because the tube went in, and then it came out, and it made a heart shape. So I said, oh, it's a flux Valentine. And so I put in press type letters, I put "Be Mine" on it.
And by the way, that piece and Failure to Measure Up are in the show next door. So you can see those if you want to either refresh your visual memory about what we've been talking about, or if you haven't seen it or maybe didn't notice it, because there are a few things in that room that this would be something to think about, those 2 pieces.
Yeah, and also there's a picture of a piece that I love, but I've mislaid the separation parts of it, so I have to remake them. But it's an ice jigsaw puzzle.
Oh, yeah.
I love working with ice. And I figured, well, okay, I've done ice, now what's next? And I thought maybe smoke, but I haven't done that yet.
It's harder to corral.
True.
Yeah. Sublimation is a bitch. So art as object, art as process, art as commodity. Yeah, right. That's the nails on blackboard part. But art as process versus art as object. Any thoughts about, it's sort of like looking through the wrong end of a telescope, right? I mean, a lot
There's
of,
no wrong end of the telescope.
well, tell that to the moon, you know. I mean,
True.
it'll never get seen. But I mean, when people are focused on the object, sort of missing the whole creative thing that caused it to get there to start with, right?
Right.
And I often have a little bit of trauma about that, because I like the pretty pictures too. You know,
Sure.
I have, you know, rooms and buildings full of
There's
stuff.
nothing wrong with that.
Right. So there's room in the universe for both parts, art as process and art as object. It's okay with you? I'm just curious at the balance, because, you know, a lot of your work is focused on the process. But I have to say, I was so pleased that there were compelling objects also. You know, that isn't always the case in the Fluxus world. And finding some of your work, I mean, it's gorgeous in a microcosm kind of way. You know, I mean, the mailing cards are spectacular.
Oh, you did such a good job of putting them up. too.
Well, I saw them. Well, you know what happened? The woman who's the chief curator here, Sarah, probably a bunch of you know her, she said, can you send me some photos? So I'm trying to figure out how to get these 31 or whatever number in one frame. And so I came up with this pattern, and I really liked it.
Yeah.
So they've got this brilliant intern here, and I said, here's a photo. Can you make this happen in a frame? And because that was part of their job, was to frame it and everything. So they did a great job of, you know, following the pattern, and I really like it a lot.
Yeah.
And the same thing with the punctuation poems. It's not as dramatic, but it causes you to stop and look at each one. And those are brilliant too, by the way. I mean, I love those. Those are so, I mean, it's one of those, I would have never thought of it. You know, it's a sort of a crazy little idea, but it is so brilliant. So there's these little index cards, and each one is simply a field of a particular punctuation, whether it's a period.
From a typewriter.
Yeah, back then we didn't have word processors right. So it's commas, one is semicolons, one is question marks, one is quotation marks, there's parentheses, I mean, dollar signs, asterisks, she pretty much, even the ampersand, you know, the at sign, each one of those marks that you don't think about now has its
So a pattern.
yeah, it's a field of those marks individually on each card. And as a grouping, it's very compelling. What kind of feedback, when you were doing this at the time, what kind of feedback were you getting? Like people were, because I've seen the correspondence on the mailing cards, and people were very motivated because they were sending you ideas back. And they were sending you other things on those cards as responses to those cards, some of which are exhibited here. I found that fascinating. It was sort of like a game of telephone that was in writing. And it was clear that there was an open exchange of information amongst this community of people. What were people saying to you? Or was that how they were doing it? Were people calling you up and going, oh, look at this, this is amazing?
No.
No? Well, they should. It's amazing. But you had people writing to you all the time in your alter ego as Black Thumb Press, and saying, we keep hearing about this, send us 2 of these and 3 of those, and yeah, that material got distributed.
I was having babies and I didn't send things as much as I should have, but
Do you have any idea of what the number, like how many sets of punctuation poems were created?
Not a clue.
Not a clue, okay.
A few dozen, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's more than that, because
Yeah.
I think we have close to that now, yeah.
I didn't say how many dozen.
Right, true enough, true enough. So, what do you want to do next?
Well, George Machunas, who was the mastermind of Fluxus, who kind of set it all in motion, loved typefaces, loved printing, black and white, black and white. And he did little cartouches of different artists' names or initials or something. And I love those things. And I thought could make them a little bit bigger and they could be squares in a quilt. So a flux quilt would be something that I would love to do, and I probably won't live to do it, but somebody might, and it's my idea.
Yeah.
And the other thing...
It's recorded now.
Huh?
It's recorded now. We all know it's your idea.
The other thing which I'm quite sure I will never see completed, you know what the biotapestry is? It's a beautiful tapestry that was made in, the 12th century or something,
Something like that,
way back in France. And it's a history of the Norman invasion of England.
1066.
1066, right. And it's sort of frame by frame and beautifully decorated. And I would like there to be a flux tapestry. The destruction of the piano in Wiesbaden, and this and that. There were wonderful things that happened, and sometimes awful things that happened. George was very aware that artists needed places to live and work, and he was helping to remake.
Until he made up number on their own.
Yeah.
The question period comes later. That's all.
So he was, where was I? He was
Then finished it off by
he was getting buildings together of lofts for artists, and he recruited some of the artists and taught them how to be electricians and plumbers, carpenters and so forth. And guess what? I think it was the electricians union, but I'm not sure, it might have been carpenters. They found George in one of the lofts, which was under construction, and they beat him up and left him for dead. And he lost vision in one eye, and he always wore a black patch after that. And he didn't die, but he did flee from New York and went up to New Marlborough, Massachusetts, and got a hold of a farm there that was not being used, and that was going to be a place for artists. He was working with that for some years, and
Jean was involved in that, right?
what?
Jean was involved in that, the collector that was sponsoring a lot of those things. Wasn't it her
Jim
farm?
Brown.
Yeah, wasn't that her farm, or didn't she facilitate that?
I'm sure she did.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And she collected some nice pieces.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So anyway, there were things that happened that were not lovely and funny and so forth, but it was life
Yeah. Yeah.
in many dimensions.
Yeah. Is there anything that you'd like to say that we haven't covered? Is there anything that?
I can't read this. I don't have my glasses.
Well, no, I mean, if it's not pressing, it's okay.
No, I know. Anybody have?
Yeah, we'll open it up to questions.
Yeah,
Anyone have any questions,
Questions or-
comments? Yes, sir.
comments?
I'm intrigued when you were talking about the pairing of words, and you said there was one pair that changed 17 times.
Yeah.
What impulse was there to, this is the right pair? What,
I don't know.
just pure emotional satisfaction?
Yep.
Interesting. So nothing cerebral.
There was oh, yeah,
Okay.
that's about it.
Okay.
I'm not an art critic.
I was just wondering what the first response was that made that the right choice somehow.
Uh-huh,
Okay.
Just know it when you see it.
yep.
Yeah.
There was another piece that I did. I'm sorry I didn't collect it. I did at the time, but I didn't save it. And that was to write 5 cliches every day for a year. And that was amazing, and there weren't
That was
very many
interesting.
duplications.
That sounds interesting, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and a couple of times I had binges. I did 200 cliches one night.
Wow.
I couldn't stop.
We should have alerted the Guinness World Record people. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any ill after effects from that binging on cliches?
Oh, one thing that I did with it, I had a friend named Ronald Gross,
Yeah.
an educator and poet, I guess. and
Absolutely.
various things in New York. And I was in bed with the flu, and I had a green marking pencil, and I had some new pillow slips, white pillow slips. So I wrote in green marker on the pillow slips, I think there were 200 cliches on each one, and I gave them to Ron.
Oh, nice. He would definitely know what to do with that.
Sleep on it, baby.
Right? You have a question?
I'm just curious, what brought you to Brattleboro?
Oh, well, when I was 14, or when I was a little younger than that, I met somebody who had been to the Putney School, and I thought that she walked on water. And I had to go to the Putney School, and I bullied my parents for over a year till they finally let me do that. And it was life-changing and wonderful. And what was your question?
What brought you to Brattleboro?
What brought me to Brattleboro? So I came back years later. I was married to somebody I'd known at Putney School. He was a year ahead of me. That was Jeff Hendricks. And his parents were here, and so I was coming back with him to visit his parents. And I have fallen in love with these green hills. I just love this place. And so Putney is a big part of that, but Brattleboro is too. And I've been here since 1982 now.
Thank you. Guys, just said thanks.
I'm curious about the Fluxus divorce piece.
Oh,
that's
God.
there. And are willing to talk about that, and also who got the piece in the divorce? Or did you both?
Who what?
Did the piece, if you're splitting things up, do you both get to claim the divorce piece?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, well, Jeff tended to take credit for things. But yeah, it was, Jeff and I had kind of, our interests had gone in separate directions, and we had both come out. And he said to me one day, you know, our 10th anniversary is coming up, what shall we do? I said, oh, let's get a divorce. And then we both said, a flux divorce. And it was a, what would you call it? Not an installation, it was in the house. There was barbed wire down the front door, and the men went in one side and the women went in the other side. And
A rather formal affair.
yeah. And all sorts of interesting people came, and I'm not going to name drop, but one of the events was we'd gotten a couple of old overcoats at a cheap store on 6th Street, and they were sewn together back to back, and I was in one and Jeff was in the other. So the men pulled Jeff and the women pulled me until it became apart. And that was the flux divorce. Oh, yes, there was, Jeff took the, what do you call it, power saw? Chainsaw. Jeff took a chainsaw to our wooden bed that we had built and sawed right down the middle of it. And there were other such things around the place. It was
Good
It was
housekeeping.
fun. It was good. It was just good. The healthiest divorce, I think. I know
Oh, for
about.
sure, absolutely.
The real thing came 2 years later, and that wasn't so much fun,
Right,
but it was pretty good.
yeah. It was better later, yeah.
He took the art career, and I took the kids.
I'll tell you what, though, the kids turned out really well. I met them recently. Yeah, good work. V?
Oh, so I was curious, I haven't had time to look at the show, but I will after the talk. What does it mean to you to have, see, I call it a trait. I believe in the process. I'm an artist. I work a lot with found materials and words and whatever. So what does it mean to have a trace of the process? For me, the piece that goes on the wall or wherever it lives is like a trace of the process itself. For me,
I agree,
the
totally.
art is the making of it. That's the alive part, you know? And so what does it mean to you to have some traces left and other things where there are no traces?
It's delightful, it can be sad. It's wonderfully affirming. It feels good, and to have it put together so beautifully, makes it very special too. There were things that I want to talk a little more about how certain things that are in the show happened. I was writing, for some reason, I'd forgotten what, the Deutschland, Deutschland über alles, the Nazi anthem. And I suddenly realized, and this is in the middle of the Vietnam horror, that the beginning and end of über alles are US. And so I had the idea to make a neon sign with U and S in big yellow letters, and then the umlaut and the other letters in blue, so that US stays on, or I think originally it flashed and then stayed on, and then the other letters filled in. So I said US über alles, US über alles. And I showed it in Germany, and I was terrified, but it didn't cause a riot. I think some people appreciated it, and some people were too young to know what the hell it was about anyway. It was a happening and Fluxus retrospective show in Cologne in 1970, and that was exciting. But there's one piece that I really want to have exhibited, and that is, it's part of it has been shown at the CX Silver Gallery, and it's been shown once at Putney School for our 60th reunion. It was initially shown at the Wyndham Art Gallery. It was its last show, and it was a protest show. And I'd had a slat-back rocking chair, which I painted red. And when you put it up against the wall with a blue cushion on it with stars, it was a flag, a white wall. And this grew into a history of the United States in 5 rocking chairs. And I exhibited it in a folding screen. So each chair had its V. And I said, oh, but a folding screen has 2 sides. What's on the other side? And that became the Bush years. I think I might change the title a little bit. Basically, so there were 5 rocking chairs on one side, and they weren't all potty chairs on the other side, but there's one of them in there, which is the U.S. Constitution, collaged on the thing. And when you open it up, you're looking into a basin that has the writ of habeas corpus, and I think there are 5 different different things from our government going down the toilet, basically.
Who knew there was room for more?
So one of them was an environmental piece with dead potted plants, and I added an oil spill. Another one was, I almost didn't get in the show because of this one. It was a very simple kid's high chair on which I put, you know those gooseneck lamps? I had the gooseneck and I attached it to the back, painted it black with a lightning strike on it. And I put straps here and straps here. And it was an electric chair for babies.
Wow.
The point being that for some people in our society, it's a straight line from the cradle to the chair. And there was another one about, it was a black chair with black stars on it, which I called KKK. And then I realized as I was doing it, that that stood also for Kennedy, King, and Kennedy.
Yeah.
So, it just sort of kept bubbling up and happening, and it's 25 feet long and 10 feet wide, and it's very hard to find a space to get it exhibited.
Okay.
It's a strong piece.
Yes, it is. I agree. I agree. Yes, Lenny?
Do you still have the elements of that piece? There, the screens and all?
Yeah, there's one, I call it Gitmo, and you lift up the lid of the toilet, and you're looking at yourself in a mirror with barbed wire around it, like a crown of thorns. Are you an inmate of Guantanamo, or are you a jailer? There you are. And I'm really proud of having done some strong political pieces.
Yeah.
So where does Fluxus end and where does something else begin? I don't know. Yes,
One of
Lynn?
the other aspects I like about your work is that you focus on something terrible, but I laugh the way you present it. I mean, those chairs and all, they were funny, but they were terrible.
Yeah.
In a way. And I like, your work does it. A lot of your work just makes me laugh.
I wanted to put razor wire in that, but when I went to Perkins Hardware, I tried to get razor wire, and they said that they weren't allowed to sell it. One would have to have a certificate of some kind to have razor wire. So I used barbed wire.
I just wondered, how many artists were there in the Fluxus movement? Any idea?
Well, how long is a stick? There were a lot, and in many different countries, in Germany, and France, and Spain, and Japan, and I don't know where else. Certainly some in Latin America. And it's not over. And a good many of the people that I knew in the 60s have died. It's mostly the women who are surviving, because that sort of happens in the culture. The women seem to live longer. So I don't have an answer, but there were just an awful lot of people involved. And there was a group in Japan called High Red Center.
Yeah.
And it was very much like Fluxus. It was a wonderful piece. I forget whether that was a High Red Center piece or a Fluxus piece, but it was on a sidewalk in New York. And somebody came along and swept it with a broom, and then somebody came with a wet mop and cleaned it that way, and then somebody got down and scrubbed it with a brush, and then somebody dried it off with a cloth, and somebody else, maybe it was all the same people, I don't recall, took a toothbrush and alcohol, and it was just this one section of sidewalk and went over the whole thing. What does that mean? I don't know.
Could it still be
It's
there?
wonderful.
Could it possibly be still there? It probably got removed or...
I think it's been walked on since.
You know, like most periods of time that involve specific types of actions and thoughts, and there are also a lot of people who were doing it that weren't well known, just like there's people next door to all of us making great art, and we don't have no idea who the heck they are. And so that whole concept of underknown artists is a real living, breathing thing. That's one thing. The other thing is there's a lot of people who are pretty well known that claim they weren't part of this activity but continue to do that stuff. You know, like Duchamp never was a Dadaist or a Surrealist, according to him, but when you look at the history, the work that he did was certainly appeared in a lot of those activities and a lot of those shows, and he even curated some shows of that nature. Joseph Beuys said he was not a Fluxus artist, and he was very involved in that type of stuff, whether he considered it to be or not. So
He was in the Happening in Fluxus
Absolutely.
retrospective show.
Right, but I'm not sure that he would have put himself in it, you know, I mean, so the point is that it's really hard to put up a fence around this and corral all these people and do a head count, but it was in the hundreds, certainly, you know. Yes, sir?
I guess, you know, what you're making me think of is that in a way, words limit you. So you have fluxus, process, objects, and then you try to define the work around these principles or these ideas, and then you realize sooner or later that if you go into it deeply, they fall apart. You could see as objects as still frame for a process, or Francis Bacon would say, well, it's a snail leaving a trail, or Willem de Kooning saying, well, what do you paint? He said, as far as I can reach. But implicit in that is that he doesn't know how far he can reach. So there's a sense of mystery and ambiguity that is, I think, very much part of the name Fluxus. And they're all kind of interrelated if you go into deeply into what the meaning of art and life are. I'm not sure how separate you could keep them. And nor do you really need to, because these words, you know, when you grow up, you begin to learn that things are things, and then it takes you 20 years to forget about that and to get beyond that. And so I think one of the things that, no pun intended, one of the things that happens when you begin to engage as art is that the definitions break apart. Your sense of who you are breaks apart. There's a lot of mystery and unknown in all of this, and there's a beauty in that we need to remember, we need to be conscious about, because otherwise life becomes stifling, you know. And
Thank you.
so that's part of, I think, what happened.
Well done, yeah, yeah.
And this gentleman here used a word early on this evening, and that was wonder. And that, to me, is one of the most important parts of the whole thing.
Nye, Mark, I think that's a really lovely place to pause. And so I'd like to suggest that we do that, and also invite everyone to stick around and continue chatting. Also, if maybe you want to look now at the exhibit with new eyes and a new perspective on things. I want to thank you both so much. This has been such a gift, this time together here tonight. I'm feeling very grateful to the young woman who went to the Putney School and inspired you, Nye, to go to the Putney School.
Right on.
And that set you on a particular path in life that has...
It really did.
Yeah.
It really did.
And that connected you with this area here. Yeah, that's really very special.
Thank you.
Yeah,
If people go in to look
Yeah.
some more, don't forget to look up around the ceiling, because it's a whole bunch of event scores
yeah,
that
terrific.
I'm very fond of.
Okay, yeah, thank you for mentioning that. And just a couple other things very quickly. Please just leave your chairs right where they are. We have staff who will put them away, and we feel more comfortable doing that ourselves with all of this glass sculpture. So I know you all want to help and put away the chairs, but please let us do it. And if you don't know, on June 21st, we're celebrating Nye's birthday here, 93rd birthday, here at the museum. Maybe somebody knows, but I don't yet know what that's going to entail. So maybe we'll all find out together. But please come back. That's Saturday, June 21st, the summer
And
solstice.
Danny, thank you so much for making this possible.
No, it's been a real privilege for us. And there is actually one final thank you that I want to extend, and that's to Adam Silver and everyone at the CX Silver Gallery. Adam contributed a little Fluxus component to the event here tonight. But that's not what I'm thanking him for. All of the work in the exhibit is on loan and with the assistance of
They
Adam.
gave me a 50-year retrospective show in 2014,
Yeah.
and it's still up.
Well, most of it is, some of it's next door.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
So, thank you again, everyone.